It's been a minute since we've done this one. Let's give it a shot. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Ryan Styles Harris, and in this video today, we are going to talk about the long-awaited Masters of Dirt 2019. It was a spectacular race. I have always said that it is a bucket list race for anyone who has not been there. Brent Densford, he does a phenomenal job, and his whole track crew of getting that event dialed in so that it is just so much fun regardless of your outcome, and I truly mean that. So we got a lot of stuff we're going to cover today. We got just some different stuff I'm going to catch you up on over here, cars, whatnot, trophies, all that good stuff. So we're going to jump into an edit like always, and I'll see you guys in just a moment. You ready to go? All right, let's go. Oh. Come on.
No, he's taking a picture, but he's not really.
Show some love.
Oh, yeah, oh, okay.
Arms. There you go. Josh, what are you doing? Love AJ. There it is. Alright, let's go ahead and start with this guy. Why not? Team Associated B74 ran it in the 13.5 four-wheel drive class. Historically, this has been a class that I feel really comfortable with, and I do typically quite well. However, this weekend, there was just a couple things that I struggled with, and I think that I'm going to chalk it up simply to the fact that it's a new car, and I just haven't figured it out yet to suit my driving style. So I drove it just as it came right out of the box. Trinity horsepower, Hobbywing ESC, Sandwall radio, all that good stuff. And we did a few things to it to try and lighten it up, because from the factory, this car is a little bit heavy. I think it weighs in at about 1,780 grams before you start doing any sort of accessory parts to lighten it up. So let's go ahead and take a look. Under the hood of this beautiful machine, we have all of our parts that we've been using all year long. We've got our Trinity white carbon battery, This is fairly new, the Trinity X Factor 13.5. We have the new Hobbywing XR10 G2, that super awesome ESC. I believe this one is called the Passion Edition. It's black with that little red line around it. Love that little detail. Matches my paint scheme. And then of course the Shorty BK Servo, and then the new Sanwa RX 491 that is paired with the new Sanwa M17. Now that we got all that stuff out of the way, let's talk about some of the things that I've done to this car. We have the gear diff installed in the center of the car. And then we have a lot of titanium parts that we put on here. There is no puck system available at the time of this video or at the time of the race, so my weight savings options are a little bit limited. So as you can see, I've given it the gold titanium turnbuckle treatment. When I purchased these turnbuckles, it was right before JC had actually released their fin turnbuckles. Otherwise, I would have those. But these are the Lunsford turnbuckles. As you can see throughout the vehicle, we have the Shell titanium screw kit. Love these screw kits. You guys, if you've been watching the channel, you know how much I love these. They got that nice tall head that lets that hex sit in there nice and firmly so that they don't strip your tools out or the screw itself. Phenomenal hardware. All in all, after we've done all the weight savings on the vehicle, I got this thing down to 1,715 grams once we've given it all of the titanium treatments. As far as setup goes, we started off with the Spencer Rivkin setup that I've linked down below. As the weekend went on, this is where I kind of struggled to get comfortable with the car. I feel like this car and the setup that Rivkin has is really dependent upon being able to produce a lot of grip through your tires. The gold compound dirt webs that we were required by the tech rules to leave a little bit of tread on the tire kind of restricted us from reaching a level of tremendous amounts of grip. Long story short, I just never felt like I could settle the car into the track. I definitely struggled with getting a lot of steering and getting some grip out of the rear end. Now that I'm looking back at it, hindsight's always 20/20. What I started off with first was trying to get some grip out of the rear end. We did that by softening up the rear sway bar, and I dropped it down to a 1.1 sway bar. And that seemed to get the rear end settled in, but then it seemed to exaggerate a even more evolving problem that I have for my particular driving style, where the front end just didn't have as much steering as I like in my vehicles. So what does that mean? I just couldn't get the car to react fast enough and feel consistent. That would be the main takeaway that I had from this weekend that I'll try and dial into the car moving forward. Throughout the weekend, I did okay. I managed to seed myself in the top 10 group, which was a big achievement for myself. In years past, I think I've bumped from the B into the A. So having done this with a stellar group of drivers was still an accomplishment. I qualified 6th, 7th on the grid, and I was just doing my best to get into a podium finish. So we'll go ahead and jump into the race, and then I'll wrap this puppy up.
So you guys are rolling out off the zone. All right, you come down the stairs. Looks like it's started Haley, Jackson, Joshua, Danny Rivkin. Off the regular double shine. We got him. Everybody runs good back. So we didn't put it separated. Cross at the loop, cross at the loop. We got a here clear. Alright, so right now we got 8 seconds back to second. Then over 5 seconds, number 3, number 4. So this one's really pretty well spread out. If you are those who fail with Buggy, it's not clear in the right position. Everybody's separated by a minimum of 3.5 seconds right now. Alright guys, we're almost halfway. We're 4 feet down on 5 to go. We got Buggy presented by Jay Concepts. seconds and really tall. That's going to be it. All right, this is done. Rivkin is done.
How about we do two-wheel drive buggy next? Two-wheel drive buggy, team associated B6.1, and we were running it in the 17.5 two-wheel drive stock buggy class. This is probably the car that I felt pretty good with over the weekend. Not perfect, but it was close enough that I was able to drive the car with a little bit of confidence and do my best. Taking a look at it under the hood, let's see what we have. So, much like my four-wheel drive car, we have the Trinity horsepower, the 4,000 milliamp white carbon battery, the X Factor, the certified edition 17.5, the Hobbywing XR10 Pro, the G2, same servo as our four-wheel, the BK Shorty servo, and then our 491 Sanwa receiver. Same as on our four-wheel, we do have the Shell titanium screws in here. We have the J Concepts fin turnbuckles, and we are running the MIP puck system in this car. So nothing too crazy, nothing that you guys haven't seen before, but just wanted to give you a quick run through so that you know what I have in this car. Setup wise, we started off on the Spencer Rivkin setup that I've linked down below. And I would say that probably one of the notable differences between his setup and mine would be that I run my shocks not on the totally inward position up top, but in the middle. I just prefer the way that the car feels like that, but you guys try it both ways, see which one works better for you. Only setups that I tried on here were softer springs and some rear pill changes, and I'll go ahead and explain. So I kind of have two different spring packages that I'll run on this car. I'll either run green in the rear and white up front when I'm outdoors or I have some pretty low grip conditions, or I run the white rear springs and the gray front springs. So that just being simply one stiffer on each or one softer on each, however you look at it. This weekend, I found the track to be a little bit bumpy, so I couldn't run my green and white. The car was just bottoming out too much and getting upset every time that it would make contact with the surface. So running those stiffer springs was definitely the way to go, especially with some high-speed corners on opposite ends of the track. We had the sweeper at the end of the straightaway, and then we had that big bank turn after the triple, and the car just needed a little bit more support from its spring setup, so we went with those stiffer springs. As far as the pills go, we kind of see this divide where people will either run the wide pivot narrow hex or the wide hex narrow pivot. I'll kind of explain the way that I think that they feel. When people run the wide pivot, meaning on the pill inserts, it's not inside or center, they usually run them somewhere on the outside. And then on the hexes, they go from either the 7mm or the 6mm. Wide pill inserts, and then the narrow hexes on the axles. That combination gives the car, it does give it some stability in the rear end, but I just was struggling to find the grip out of the tires, so then it ended up feeling like the rear end was just a little floaty, and I didn't like that. So I went with the narrow pivot and the wide hex configuration, and that gave the car the stability and the reactiveness that I liked with the particular tire combo that we had to run this weekend. Spec class had the gold compound dirt webs, and like mentioned before, you had to leave a little bit of tread on the tire. You couldn't slick it out completely. So getting that high level grip seemed to be a little bit challenging. We went ahead and qualified third in the A main of stock two-wheel drive buggy, which was a big accomplishment for me. I was only hoping to get into the A main itself, so I'll go ahead and jump into the main, and then we will wrap this puppy up with the 13.5 stadium truck class.
17.5 two-wheel drive buggy sponsored by J Concepts on the tone. Alright, they roll down just like all the ones down the down the steps. Rosser to the right there, we saw the heat brakes. Trying to keep every eye to the big there, but he's out slowly but surely. Remember that four-wheel drive buggy there, I mean, we wrap the field on the truck, they say kind of hard to get out, but he rolls over. Rosser to the inside, triple on the nose, alright, we'll take it right there, Rosser Carolina. We got Florida, we got North Carolina, Heat in the middle, we got Rivkin, South Carolina. Journey 2019 Masters third. All right, let's move. Still hold strong. These guys right here on Sun Straightaway. Roster forward, set 5. Alright, so Taylor and Lasco, both tabletop, both triple. Now you guys are rocking it just like I'm there. Throw it up down the straightaway. Maybe a little wide in that set. Lasco again in the order. Little breaks another lap. Pull it up. When it's that close, one mistake and set back. Alright guys, there's 30 seconds left, 30 seconds from the back. So this morning we take game of state from Morocco. We go to try to 3 for 3. Here in our picture last minute of the day. We've got Harris and Doyle in front of him. So we've got Brasco, Zach, Alfredo, Rossiter, Bronson, and Hogan Hall. I put it to Hugh and Harris, so Hugh and Doyle. That is your own order. Alright, this is the last lap, guys. We're less than 5. That is on. There is your winner. AJ, you're after that 3 for 3.
So that race was frustrating. To kind of get to a point where I was in the lead and then just a lot of mental mistakes and I just kind of threw that whole thing away. So really frustrating considering last year I blew up my diff and had a really bad finish. And then this year being in a really good starting position to get a podium finish, but then just kind of throwing it away. So big bummer. Hopefully we can do better next year. So let's move on to the next one. All right. So last but not least, 13.5 stadium truck class. So this truck felt really good all weekend long. I started out on practice day with my setup that I've had everywhere, which is a Dustin Evans setup. And I pretty much left everything as far as geometry and whatnot the same. The only change that I decided to make as the weekend went on was switching to some stiffer springs. AJ Marasco was running a spring combination that I hadn't seen before, but his truck looked really good going out on the track. We had this interesting level of fair amount of grip, fair amount of speed, but the track just had some really bumpy sections. And so what we were trying to do is keep our trucks from bottoming out and getting upset by making too much contact with the surface, kind of similar to my two-wheel drive car. So what we ended up doing is going with some Kyosho Gold rear springs and then some Kyosho Red front springs. I have no idea what the pound rating is for these compared to the associated springs, but they were definitely stiffer and they stabilized the truck appropriately for this particular track on this weekend. Looking at other things in the truck, we can see that we still have our Trinity horsepower, the 4000 milliamp white carbon battery. We have the certified 13.5 X Factor motor, Shorty BK servo, the Hobbywing Pro Stock ESC in this truck. It's pretty heavy and it doesn't have a whole lot of power demand, so I just ran this one because it's a little smaller, a little bit lighter, maybe to save some weight there and get some efficiency out of the truck was the theory here. As far as hop-ups on the truck, the only thing that I have that's notable would be the Lunsford titanium turnbuckles and the Kashima shocks. Again, we have the Shell titanium screw kit all throughout. But that's going to be about it for this one as far as all of the flashy goods go. Oh, and it looks like we have some J-Concepts titanium fin standoffs. And I lied again. I forgot. I have the MIP puck system in this truck as well. Now, in case you're wondering, Ryan, why do you have an AKA tire on your truck when we know you're sponsored by J-Concepts? That's true. This was the spec tire for this class this year, so I just left it on the truck so that you can see how it ran at this particular event. I believe that these are the AKA X-Links, and they came in a clay compound. I don't know too much about the AKA tires, so that's about all I can tell you when it comes to these. One thing that was notable, and it was a little bit challenging, was that they only gave us 2 sets of tires for this particular class, and that would have been fine if I had known how soft they were. When I went to go edge my first set and get them ready for break-in, much like I do any other clay compound tire, they were very soft, and they kind of came apart a little bit differently than the JC rubber, what I'm used to. It seemed like it came apart in kind of like a chunkiness to it. I'm not saying it in a bad way. It was just something I'm not used to and I wasn't ready for, and I immediately destroyed one of my sets of tires, and so then I had to use my other set all weekend long. So a little bit of a challenge because I had to run the tire a little bit taller. So after ruining my first set of tires, I quickly realized that I only had 1 set of tires to last me for 3 rounds of qualifying and a 10-minute main. So I left the last set with the tread height pretty high so that I could have enough to pass tech by the time it came to get to our main event. So I felt pretty good with the truck. Overall, it had enough grip. It seemed pretty balanced. It was easy to drive. I could push it and it really wasn't doing anything weird. Paired up with the new JC body, it felt really good. This compared to the F2, I noticed that this one just has a little bit better balance throughout the whole truck. I think that F2 body is going to be something really good for like carpet or Astro, the environments where you have a lot of grip and you can take advantage of the aggressive style of that body. But on dirt, where it's a little bit looser, I think that I prefer this body quite a bit compared to the F2. So we'll go ahead and jump into the main here. You guys see some highlights from that. And then when we come back, I'll walk you through just a couple other items here that I dealt with through race day, and then we'll wrap this puppy up.
Yesterday, after that early mistake, we put down all the fastest laps over that race and come back and finish second. For 10 minutes is a long time. If we show the same pace as that qualifier, I believe we can make it happen. Alright, first fifth, 6. A little sketchy right now. We got Millington in 4, Harrison in 5. Guys from Florida to Ohio and everywhere in between. So everything on the East Coast riding like except for grass here in the Masters of Dirt. I got 7 to go, just under 7 minutes remaining. Full rundown Nebraska with Brewer, Rosser, Middleton, Harris, Lemieux, Harden, Watson, Vita, and Mack. Looks like something happened to the roster. It had a 20.9 to 22.3, so roster down to 5 now. The roster in that green and white truck, trying to take some truck, takes to the right here, the blue guy's here, it's orange and red. And Harris now up to the 3rd position. Those guys currently on the podium over 2.1 spot. Right there, on the backside, they're going at you, Mark, they're going at you. Just make it quick with this head, guys. Get it out of the way.
So, not too bad. Second place finish, I'll take that. Best finish of the weekend, so always good to step up on the podium, especially when you're in the company of some pretty fast guys. Truck was feeling pretty good. It didn't fade too badly by the end of the 10 minutes. I just had to be a little bit conservative going over that triple towards the end. It was something that if I hit it perfectly, I might be able to make it, but just not worth the risk, as I wanted to not break the truck or do anything crazy and finish since I was running in a pretty good spot. So not bad of a finish there. I want to give a huge shout out to Maverick Riggs. He's somebody that was kind of behind the scenes, that when I did the video of announcing that James was going to head up with me to Masters of Dirt, he saw that I was running it with a old B6. He reached out and said that he had an extra B6.1 that was built, and it was one of his cars that he used for other races that wasn't going to be used currently. So he offered to let James use that car so that he could run a current car and we could share identical setups and whatnot. Thank you so much for loaning us your car for that event. James had a blast with that thing. James, he did a super awesome job. He was learning a lot over the weekend with his dad about tire prep and kind of getting the feel of driving a car in loose conditions at the beginning of the weekend and kind of progress to tighter conditions, timing jumps, and just doing a lot of things that he wasn't exactly familiar with. He showed a little bit of frustration in the beginning when he saw that he wasn't gonna, be the winner of the whole event. But then he quickly realized that he was still having a lot of fun. So thank you to everyone that was there, giving him tips, showing him, giving him some advice. I don't think that this would have been possible without you guys and all of my wonderful sponsors that made it possible for me to piece those cars together for him. So such a cool experience. Thank you, Mr. Trotter and James, for coming along. I hope to see you guys in the 10 scale scene more often in the future. Throughout the weekend, I just wanted to share with you guys just some of the traction compounds of choice. For me, it was just the good old-fashioned FDJ. I would prep the tires with the green, edge burn them in, stuff like that with the green, and then before I went out to my race, my mains and heats and whatnot, I would clear and then green. So just like I've shown you before in some of my break-in videos, that was my tire prep combination of choice. Something that Dakota Fend and AJ Marasco, the two individuals that were the Dakota being the Master of Dirt and then AJ being the Stock Master of Dirt, they used the Blue Groovy. I believe that this is the compound here. It's something I didn't have in my bag. I've never really had too much experience with it, but I definitely am going to give it a shot. They said that they really liked it as far as the consistency by the end of a race. They felt like it was just something they were comfortable with. So food for thought. If you haven't tried it, give it a shot. Next up on the items that I just wanted to talk briefly about, you guys have asked how my Sanwa radio switch has gone since I went from Futaba to my M17, and honestly, I really like it. I still feel super comfortable with the radio. It's been really easy to use, really easy to dial in, no weird problems, and I've just continued to enjoy what I would describe as a more connected feeling with the car. It's something that I've talked to other people who've done the switch as well, and we seem to all have the same answer, where we're not saying that we're necessarily light years faster than before. It's just the way that you get this feeling back from the car. Hard to experience unless you put it in your car yourself and give it a shot, but if you're in the market for a new radio, I would definitely suggest the M17 as a solid choice for something that's going to give you a phenomenal feel and feedback from your car. So just thought I'd let you guys know. Only other thing that I just thought was notable to talk about was some body selection. If you notice on my two-wheel, I had the, actually here, let me just take it off and show you guys. So we've got two different bodies here. The theory behind them is that the P2 is going to be a little bit more stable because it's got this little line, this divider running down the center of the body. It was something that Spencer Rivkin, he used at the recent 110 scale worlds, and he was obviously the world champion. I think that at high-speed tracks and where you're looking for a little bit of just stability, this is a good choice. I really like it. If you find yourself on a track where you have lots of grip and you're looking to get a little bit more rotation out of the vehicle and you don't need that added stability that this can provide, the F2 is probably going to be a really good choice. It's got a really low profile center cab, and it's just nice and tight and compact, so it's going to give you a little bit more aggressive or free car through the corners. This is how I felt between the two when I tried this one, and then I would go out and I would try that one. So I opted for this one at the Masters this year just because I felt that the track was fast and I needed that little bit of stability that I could get from that little midsection there. So just some tips for you guys in case you're in the market for trying a new body. So that's going to be it for Masters of Dirt 2019. I hope that that was informative and I gave you guys a little bit of an inside scoop and a rundown of what I did there. If you have any questions about the event or any of my setups and stuff in my cars, please feel free as always, drop a comment down below and I'll try and help you guys out. If you're looking for future dates of Masters of Dirt 2020, I would suggest going over to Facebook. I'll go ahead and link it down below. Go to the Masters of Dirt Facebook page so that when he makes announcements for those race dates, you can put them on your calendar and immediately book hotel reservations and whatnot so that we can see you guys there next year. Huge, huge, huge thank you to everyone that has supported the channel, supported my cars, my sponsors, everyone that has made this journey possible. It has been awesome. Thank you so much. As always, if you guys like the video, like it. That always helps me out. Drop a comment if you feel so inclined. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. And I will see you guys in the next one.